Now we can go the other way. If we have a parallelogram that's more specifically a rectangle, it's because of the following. Now let's start by saying a rectangle is a parallelogram. So it contains all of the characteristics that we listed above, all of those 6 characteristics in the parallelogram section. So it's a parallelogram, but it has more specifically 4 right angles. You know what? I'm not just going to say 4 right angles. I'm going to say all 4 right angles. Okay, so all of the angles are 90 degrees. They are all congruent. So all 4 sides are congruent, makes a rhombus. All 4 angles congruent makes a rectangle. One or the other. Either it's a rhombus or it's a rectangle. The other property has to do with its diagonals. If we draw the diagonals in this picture of a rectangle, I'm going to draw this one a little bit better. Hopefully you notice that the diagonals are the same size. How do we show that? Well, this piece and this piece, of course, are congruent because the diagonals bisect each other in the parallelogram. But unlike how we changed this to 2 slashes and 2 slashes, because these diagonals are the same measure, it's going to be the same types of slashes. So the diagonals are congruent. The diagonals of rectangle, PQRS, intersect at point T. Given that the measure of angle RPS is 62 degrees, where's that? RPS, 62 degrees, and QS is 18. Now that's not shown in the picture, but here's QS. We know that that whole length is 18, and remember that when we have a parallelogram, the diagonals are bisected. So each part, what does it have to be? 9. And that's probably why it wasn't shown in the picture. It's hard to label the whole length when it's been intersected by another length. Find the indicated measure. Well, rectangle. The 2 things I know about a rectangle, memorize them, list them off. 4 congruent angles. More than just congruent, they are 90 degrees. Also, the diagonals are congruent. So those two, both 9 and 9. 4 angles that are 90 degrees, let's draw those. 90, 90, 90, 90. They are congruent. Well, that's going to help us a little bit because if this is 90, 90 minus 62 gives us that adjacent angle. How much is that? 28. 28 degrees in here. And remember, if all the angles are congruent, they have to have those same measures. So tiny angles 28, tiny angles 28, tiny angles 28, tiny angles 28. Larger angles 62, larger angles 62, larger angles 62. All the angles are congruent. Let's go ahead and see what we're asked to find. Measure of angle QPR. Q over to P, down to R. Well, guess what? We already found it, 28 degrees. How about ST? ST is right here. Well, guess what? We already marked it, 9. So much easier when you mark everything you know in the picture. But the hard part is memorizing all that stuff. You can do it.